Hey guys, James here with Modal Electronics, and on today's quick dive, we're going to be going through a new firmware for ARGON8, the 2.4 firmware. We've got a couple of improvements, a couple of new features, and 300 brand new presets. Let's dive in. So what's the big deal about firmware 2.4? Well, drift. Drift is extended on this now. So any patches that you had where your drift setting was set to 127, like maxed out, it is now set to half. So it's been scaled. Now you have an entire, basically double the amount of drift to add in. I'm going to show you the, a couple of examples. We're going to hold down init, and now we're initialize. First thing I'm going to do is change this to a saw wave. Next, I am going to crank the spread up slightly. It basically adds a second oscillator or a clone of itself, and then it starts to detune. So this is one oscillator. As soon as you go to spread one, you'll hear a second one. You can hear the phasing happen, and then as you get higher and higher, they'll detune more and more. Now, you might be wondering, how is this not the same as drift? Well, spread is a fixed constant of detune, and drift is the irregularity and the kind of randomness that's introduced. All right, I'm going to crank up the drift now. So that was the max you could go earlier. And now we're about to go into the new territory here. So let's do that again. I'm going to just play a chord this time, and we're going to make the adjustments so you can hear it happening on the fly. So as you can tell, it's a pretty drastic difference there. It's going to be a lot of fun to play with. And like I said, you can use existing presets like we showed there, or you can start from scratch and just create these very lush sounding, very sleek wavetable walls of sound. Okay, next thing to talk about is the LFO divisions. There are some new LFO divisions. Unfortunately, they weren't included right off the bat, but you know what? Better late than never, and that's dotted increments. So dotted eighth notes, dotted quarter notes, those are the ones that I'm going to be using the most. Those are very common to be used, especially in delays, but also in LFOs. Not having the dotted eighths and the dotted quarters really put a limit on things. So now sky's the limit, and you're going to find that it's going to add a lot of really cool syncopation. So if you play notes dynamically and in a creative way, creative rhythmic ways, that'll interact with this polyphonic LFO. That's LFO2. That's per note. And then also it'll interact with LFO1, which is the global LFO. So it'll re-trigger LFO1 each time. But if you're holding down notes and then cueing in new notes, the LFO2 will continue per note on its rhythmic trajectory. So I'm going to show you an example of that right now here, full-blown example, and we're going to modulate wavetables and filters, and et cetera, et cetera. So let's use the app for this one. It's a little easier to explain. Okay, we'll start out with something basic, right? I'm going to pick one of my fun wavetables, and let's modulate LFO1 to wavetable 1, and then let's make that quarter notes, and we're going to use dotted for LFO2. So LFO2, why don't we have that doing the mix? And then let's pick something really kind of gnarly for this one. And then let's make the shape something like a saw wave or a square wave. We'll figure it out. There we go, 1/8 D right there, dotted, right? And we're both in retrig. Okay, that's a good start. Let's increase width. Let's make our polyphony stack 2. Crank that drift to max. Oh yeah, and then add some spread and some release to both envelopes. Spread, there we go. So instead of that, why don't we try doing 16th notes for this? And then let's just make it a little bit more subtle on LFO1. So when you have dotted eighth notes, they're not going to align at the end of each 4-bar phrase, or they're not going to align at the end of each bar. They're going to constantly run into the next measure sounding different, like this. So on one measure, it's on the downbeat. On another measure, it's on the and so on and so forth. And it's constantly shifting. There's no even pattern. So what that requires you to do is reset the note. Right? So that's when you get to start making the rhythmic variation that I was talking about. Okay, now I'd like to play a couple of my favorite patches on this new set of 300 factory presets. Some of them have been drawn from the Digital Obsession sound pack. A special thanks to James Dyson, Sound Sauce, Alpha Code Synth, aka Camille, and I know I'm forgetting somebody. Oh, and our internal guy Luke. Absolutely fantastic contributions, and all in all, I think it just made a really nice, well-rounded set of presets, and we're very proud to be releasing these for everyone to download, as well as having these bundled into Argons that are currently being produced. So yeah, we're very proud of them, and I think they really expand the sound of the Argon and really give it its legs, give it its full potential in a big workout. Okay, modulus memories. Gremlin gossip. So a lot of the design behind these presets is to be like instantly ready for you to put into a production or a live jam. So for example, on HyperArp, you see the Y there. Well, that means that we're encouraging you to use the Y joystick. So if you're playing something like this, you can increase the intensity and kind of build into your next section of your tune. Really cool bass, just a very, very approachable, use it for anything kind of bass. This one is the talk box. We have a collection of world sounds. This one's called Japan. This is originally a preset from Alpha Code. Oh, we also have a collection of 10 kind of bit crushed or chip tune style presets here, starting with number 190. That's one up. Game Boy Gladiator. So these, I'm going to skip over to the Modal app here and show you. So these, 210 through 219, you see these with the word now afterwards. These are meant to be kind of instantly audible. So one of the pet peeves that I have with pads on a lot of synthesizers is that they take too darn long to be heard. They have just absurdly long attack times. So what I set out to do is make atmospheric, presets that you can use as pads, but you can hear them instantly. No delay. So there's no delay and there's no excessively long tail. Here's sparkling now. Just keep holding it. and then move up the mod wheel a little bit. And then wall of pads, that was the original one that I had the idea for, and I believe this was also a freebie. So something like Salsa Stars, if you increase the aftertouch, you're going to hear a completely different pad. And there's a lot of presets like that, so you should definitely try it out. So that's applying full aftertouch, and now it's a no aftertouch. Full, none. So it's just two different characters. It's one of the beauties of the ARGON8 is just it can form, kind of morph and mutate into so many different personalities and different styles. With one little joystick movement or one little push of aftertouch. Czar pad. Okay, crank the drift. Now let's hear it. And then, of course, there's a lot of rhythmic stuff, too. So you can use these as the basis for tracks or kind of like a groove builder or jam builder. Some rhythmic pads, too, that you can check out, like Wave Alchemist. Scattered throughout there are presets where you hit just one note and it's just staccato. Don't let those turn you off, because chances are it's got a lot of velocity modulation going on. And a perfect example to kind of demonstrate this is punch velocity. That's preset number 4. So if you tap it really lightly, you're going to get short staccato. And the harder you press it, the longer the release and the more open the filter gets and the more gnarly things get. A lot of dynamic variation and just makes for great music and make great grooves. All right, before we call it quits here, I wanted to mention the last bit of improvements. So there's improved expression pedal behavior. So those of you who have an expression pedal, go ahead and give that a try. You're going to notice that things are just tighter and a little bit easier to control. There's also going to be improvements that you'll notice to LFO1 and sync. So those of you using external hardware sequences or doing live jams, you can look forward to the Argon just being that much more stable. Then in addition to that, there's the master clock mode. You can turn the ARGON8 here and make it a MIDI master clock, which means it can send signals and control something like Ableton Live. You're going to notice overall improvements to the clock stability, especially when synced either way. All right, guys, I think that just about wraps things up. Hope you enjoyed those presets. And yeah, definitely get into your Argon. If you've been out and about and enjoying the summer weather, good for you. But eventually you got to come back inside, and you're going to have to turn on that Argon and see what you're missing here, because we got a brand new firmware and 300 new presets. And yeah, and then we got a Modal Minute or 2 coming your way that you could check out, and that's going to cover backing up presets for those of you who don't know how to do that, and more importantly, factory reset. So those of you who actually want to perform a factory reset, when you do that, you're going to get those new 300 presets with the factory reset that you perform. Otherwise, you can simply add those presets via the Modal app. And yeah, you can tinker around with the master clock mode, and those of you who are live jamming, by all means, get a live jam going with your ARGON8 and let us know if you've noticed any differences or improvements. Master clock mode doesn't have to be on. There's still more stability improvements with timing and especially with LFO1 as well. So yeah, overall just great improvements and a lot more fun to be had with your Argon. So enjoy, and I will see you on the next video, and look for more modal videos coming your way. We'll see you next time, guys. Bye-bye.